50% chance of early showers gradually clearing later. South breeze, high of 79. Sunday, sunny, high of 87. I'm staff meteorologist John Weatherby. Money Radio 1510 and 99.3 FM.
Right now it's 72 degrees and checking the market. The Dow is up 4 points at 18,256. S&P 500 up 1 at 2122. The NASDAQ is down 4 at 5,047. Reporting for Money Radio, I'm Ken Morgan.
The views expressed on the following program do not necessarily reflect the views of Money Radio staff, management, or advertisers, and do not represent an offer to buy or sell any securities. Some interviews heard on this program may be sponsored by the participants. It's time for Health Futures with Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth. This is Arizona's only show dedicated to providing you with expert advice on how to live a longer, healthier, and happier life. To learn more, call 602-264-8009. That's 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Bob Roth.
Well, hello, and let me start off by saying this isn't Bob Roth. This is Scott Spangler. I get to sit in for Bob today. I am the CEO for Cypress Home Care Solutions. Bob is off today, so I am taking over the show. Today, I'm really looking forward to this show, as I feel this is very important for Cypress Home Care Solutions, for people. We seem to run into families continually struggling with end-of-life issues. These end-of-life issues are things that confront us all, but I never seem to see people that are truly prepared or have taken some steps or at least know the information. And what I'm talking about with the end-of-life is in regards to a mortuary. What does a mortuary do? What is the best time to talk to a mortuary? What is pre-planning? What type of pre-planning can people do? What should be done? What are the costs? What are different services? It could be a very confusing thing. It could be very confusing during the grief process. And today I'm very proud to have two guests on the show that are going to shed some light to some of the questions that I think families have on an ongoing basis. So first off, I'm proud to have with us today funeral director and CEO of Messenger Mortuary, Nancy Keil. Hi, Nancy.
Hi, Scott. Thank you.
And I have Jim Vickers, who is the Director of Advanced Planning for Vickers Agency. He's also a funeral director. Jim, great to have you here. Before, Nancy, I get into these questions, and again, I feel this is a very, very important topic. I wanted to find out a little bit more about Messenger Mortuary, find out a little bit about your history with Messenger Mortuary, and thought if you can just fill us in a little bit about that, that'd be terrific.
Sure. Actually, I come from Wisconsin. I served my internship in Oshkosh. So I have been in funeral service for 37 years, but the past 27 years I've been with Messengers. Messenger Mortuary opened actually on Mother's Day of 1959. Paul and Cora Messenger are the owners of the funeral home, and this was the Messenger Dairy Farm. It's on the southeast corner. Our property is on the southeast corner of Miller and Indian School Roads, and the old farm, the old adobe farm home, still stands on the corner, and we still utilize it today. So it actually was the first funeral home in Scottsdale, and at that time they also had an ambulance business connected with it. So 1959 was the original funeral home, and then in 1974 Paradise Memorial Gardens was opened, and so that's obviously part of our business, which is at 92nd Street and Shea. So the first burial that took place there was in 1974, and then in about 1977, he started a crematory on that property. So then people and clergy in Fountain Hills were asking Mr. Messenger, is there any possibility that you would ever consider having a chapel out in our community rather than them having to come down the hill into Scottsdale? And so in 1995, we purchased the original Welcome Center, which is actually the historical building in Fountain Hills. And that is now our Fountain Hills Chapel. Then in 1999, there was a husband and wife team that owned the funeral home up in Payson. And they approached Mr. and Mrs. Messenger about purchasing their business, and they took over that business, and we've built a new funeral home up in Payson. And then lastly, we have a chapel on Pinnacle Peak and Pima Roads. We opened that chapel in 2000. So since I've been with them for the last 27 years, we have certainly expanded in the community.
Quite a bit. It sounds like you're really truly a fabric of this community.
Absolutely.
Great.
Very, very family oriented.
Now, how long have you been the CEO?
I'm just going into my third year.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
I've actually been up to Payson, Arizona, and seen the new chapel up there, and it's terrific. It seems like what your location is from Scottsdale. It is right in the heart, and it's almost like a community center as well.
Exactly. In fact, that's almost like what we like to think of it as, a community center.
Terrific.
Yes.
Jim, tell me, an advanced planner, and I know it's your agency, Vickers Agency. How did you get into advanced planning, and what is advanced planning, and tell me a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, of course, my name is Jim Vickers, and I come from Ohio. A little farming community called Wellington, Ohio. And when I was in high school, the local funeral director needed some help with ambulance trips and so forth. Back in those years, most of your funeral homes had ambulance service. So that has since gone by the wayside. But then decided to go to college in Cincinnati Mortuary School to become a funeral director. Now of 53 years. So when I decided to come to Arizona, my colleagues back in Ohio said, if you're going to Scottsdale, you need to stop in and visit with Paul and Cora Messenger. And I did that. And, of course, Nancy happened to be there at that time, too. She was on the staff. So basically, Paul and I shook hands, and I said, well, I'll be out. I don't know how soon I'll be out, but I'm going to come out. So it took me about a year and a half to make some changes and so forth, so that happened, and it's been a tremendous 21-year experience working with Paul and Cora and the Messenger staff and so forth. But advanced planning is so important for people, because in the early years, everybody lived around the same community, so you knew that death was going to occur there, and you'd go to the local mortuary and so forth. But things have changed because children had to move to different parts of the country to find work that they couldn't find in where they grew up. So they're kind of scattered. So we have a lot of people here of the elderly senior community that their children are wherever they are. So it's very, very important to bring these affairs, the end-of-life issues, as you mentioned, that bring these things together, make your decisions, and the relief that these people have that they've come in and talked about funeral arrangements to make it easier on their loved ones, which is so important. So, but we can get into the nuts and bolts of it here in a little bit of different things we want to talk about.
Good. Well, I also on your bio here it says you're Vickers Agency.
Yes.
So are you Messenger Mortuary, or are you an agency within the mortuary?
I have my own agency within the Messenger organization, okay, which we have to have because by state law, the people that want to prepay cannot pay Messenger Mortuary because the death has not occurred. So we have to have an agency. So Paul came to me several years ago and asked me to start my own agency, and I work solely with the Messenger mortuaries. Perfect. And been there since '94, and fortunately, like Nancy said, we've had the growth, and I've experienced all of that along with everybody else. So it's been a great experience being associated with them. So basically, by law, the money has to go into a burial insurance policy, which is good for the consumer.
Well, it sounds terrific. Sounds like I've got the right professionals to handle my questions. And we're coming up on a break, and I will take the questions, and I'm so glad to have you, Nancy, and you, Jim, with us. Again, this is Health Futures, Taking Stock in You, and I'm with Nancy Keil with Messenger Mortuary and Jim Vickers with the Vickers Agency. We'll be right back.
I'm a freelance photographer, and I handle my own business. That's why I use QuickBooks Self-Employed. It's a simple program that helps me estimate my federal quarterly taxes and separate my business and personal expenses. Say I buy a new lens. The purchase pops up on my phone. I just swipe left to file it as a business expense. And tickets to a ball game with my kids? I swipe right to file as personal.
Dad, I'm hungry.
And swipe right for the hot dogs. That's how I own it.
If you work for yourself, try QuickBooks Self-Employed with a free 30-day trial. Learn more at QBSelfemployed.com.
Laura Bramnick is a real estate agent and a real estate attorney and a consumer advocate. Real estate transactions can be complicated, and Laura Bramnick can be your champion to cut through the fine print and find solutions. For more information, visit TalkRealEstateAZ.com or call 480-624-2705. That's 480-624-2705. To talk with Laura, call 480-624-2705.
Andrews Law, the go-to lawyers for your business and entertainment law needs. Whether you're a soon-to-be business owner, an artist, or an experienced deal maker, you'll probably come across a contract or two in your career. For most people, contracts can be confusing, frustrating, or just plain ineffective. The last thing your new music deal, purchase agreement, or real estate contract needs is miscommunication or a jumble of legal jargon. At Andrews Law, we cut through all the fluff and produce work that is professional, easy to understand, and rock solid. So, don't just scan the internet for templates. That free contract you download today might just cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars tomorrow. Get the job done right from the start with Andrews Law. We're the go-to lawyers for all your contract and copyright needs. Call us today. Don't wait. Dial 888-955-9111. That's 888-955-9111.
Monopoly is back and bigger than ever at Albertsons. Look for participating products in store and get a game piece every time you shop. Shop, play, win. See store for details.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth.
Well, again, I'll start off by saying I'm Scott Spangler. I'm very fortunate to be able to sit in for Bob Roth. Again, I am the CEO for Cypress Home Care Solutions. We are a home care company that provides caregivers in people's homes. Nancy, I think that's the reason why I felt this was so important, is even our caregivers are constantly calling us, calling my scheduling team and saying, the family is asking us questions. I don't know how to answer these questions. The families are asking, do you know of a mortuary? What was the next step do I take? Do I call a crematory? What am I supposed to do? And they don't know the direction to go. And a conversation with the family hasn't taken part yet. Mm-hmm. What is a conversation about death, dying, a mortuary? What does it look like? What should a family do? Okay. What are some of the things they should bring up?
Mm-hmm. And it is a difficult discussion to have. And even though I've been in funeral service for so many years, we have elderly parents. So I know firsthand it is a very, very difficult discussion to have, just to bring it up. And I know with our parents, it took actually going to a funeral and riding home after it and discussing that actual service, saying, Dad, what did you think of it? And, so that sort of opens that line of discussion. Or you're watching a movie and there's a funeral scene, and that may be a segue into a discussion. But, when you're talking about people that that are either under hospice care or home health care, many times the patient wants to discuss these things, but yet it's difficult on behalf of the family members. So that caregiver, because they're a little bit outside of the family, but yet very well trusted, many times they can initiate that conversation or recommend that the patient sit down and they're sort of the bridge. They can bridge that gap between the family members and the patient. And really it's just discussing. And I think the main thing that needs to be talked about are the wishes that want to be followed after the time of death. If there are multiple children, we have, we're parents and we have children, and they all have different personalities, and so it really is a gift when parents talk about these things. Get them in writing, whether they come into the funeral home or not, but make their wishes known so that at the time of death, there isn't a question of what's going to be done. And again, I would say when the children come together, the bottom line, if we're talking about a parent, they want to follow their parents' wishes. We all want to do what's right for our parents, but yet we may go about it in different ways. But ultimately, we want to do the right thing.
Well, you brought up an interesting point, because our caregivers seem to have the clients that actually share their wishes with them. And I had never thought of, well, why is that? Why aren't they sharing it with their own family member? And now it sort of makes sense. It's sort of like, I want to give this to somebody, yet I don't want to scare my loved one.
Yes.
And so the
don't want to hurry things up.
The caregiver is kind of a neutral person.
A little safer.
That's interesting.
And many times the patient themselves will call the funeral home and say that very thing. My children are really having a hard time with this, but I want to talk about different options and maybe get something started at the funeral home. We call it a personal file. Again, just to start discussing it, it really puts the patient at ease. And then different as far as the statistical information. If we're getting into legal documents, a lot of times people say, well, what do we need to bring in? What do we have to prepare for? And the funeral home normally begins the death certificate. It doesn't start at the doctor's office. It doesn't start at the hospice office. It begins with us at the mortuary. And a death certificate is much like a birth certificate, where you have the person's name and age and date of birth and place of birth and parents' names and education and occupation. So very basic information, but sometimes people need to look those items up before they come in. But
should they look them up? Do you have something where it's sort of like, if I'm facing it, I don't know what this is. Do you have something that you could send people to sort of say, this is what you're going to need? You talked about parents' names. Do I have to know the parents' birthplace? Do I need any information like that, or is it their parents' name, which is grandparents, obviously? Do you have something like that? Is that something that comes out, or do they just need to contact you and sit with you? How does that work?
We can send information to the families via the mail, via email. But you're right. You bring up the parents' names, and we're talking. So our parents are 88 and 89, so we need their mother's maiden name. So that goes back quite a few years, and so and the reason is it required? It's not, but it's nice to have have it, because so many times when people are doing genealogy, working on family trees, they're using death certificates and birth certificates for that type of information. Otherwise, the health department uses all this information. That's how they gather statistics for their work.
So they have this discussion. They start talking about what the client, what the patient, what the person that is going to pass away wants. They discuss maybe a type of service. They discuss, do I want a burial? Do they discuss, I want a cremation? What are some of those services that are out there that what are they? What are the options?
And when we talk to people, what you need to do, first of all, you look at the broad picture and then narrow it down. So I usually tell people, you need to discuss, are you looking at burial or cremation? Really, those are your two options. Okay. Are you going to be buried in a casket, or is cremation going to take place? Now, before burial, before cremation, a lot of the same aspects can take place. You can have a viewing, you can have a funeral. If there's cremation, then obviously the person is taken to our crematory and cremation takes place. If there's burial, obviously we go to the cemetery. Many times from Arizona, we're sending people back home because so many people here in our population are from back in the Midwest or the East, like Jim and I are. We're all transplants out here. Now with cremation, you have a lot more variety of options available to you. But like I said, up until that cremation point, you can have the visitation, which a lot of people aren't aware of, that you can have a full service and then the cremation take place. After the cremation, though, this is another very important discussion to have as far as a family is concerned. What's going to be done with those cremated remains? Cremated remains can be buried, they can be scattered, they can be divided into different containers. They can be scattered over Four Peaks mountain range, which we do. They can be buried at sea. They can be placed in a mausoleum, buried in we have an ossuary, which is something a little bit new at our cemetery. We have a beautiful veteran cemetery here locally. So lots and lots of different options. And I think once a family starts the conversation, they probably are led in lots and lots of different directions. And so we always encourage them to call us during their conversation if they have any questions along the way.
How many families do you find that the person has passed away, they're sitting with you, and they don't know what mom or dad wanted? Does that happen a lot? It sounds like, this discussion sounds like it should go through. It sounds like it would be very stressful if I didn't know if dad wanted to be sent back home or he wanted to be buried in Scottsdale. Mm-hmm. Or does that happen a lot?
I would say it happens a lot, but I think because of people like you, educated caregivers, social workers, funeral homes, people today are very educated, and I would say that more often than not, families come in and they do have some idea of maybe not every aspect, maybe not down to the songs that their mom wanted played at her service, but they pretty much know which way they're going to go. Okay. Yes.
And I guess that's Jim. That's where you would step in. They'd get it in writing, and we're coming up on a break. So the next part, I'm going to get to you about what do we get in writing and what should be there.
Okay.
Again, you're listening to Health Futures. This is Scott Spangler. We're taking stock in you. We'll be right back.
As we reach the bottom of the hour, we pause for a look at the world's news. Then we're back with Money Talk. We're Money Radio 1510 and 99.3 FM.
Special report, a sentence has been reached in the Boston Marathon bombing trial. All sides back in a Boston courtroom this afternoon to hear what the jury has decided. Johar Tsarnaev will be sentenced to death for his role in the Boston Marathon bombing. The jury of 7 men and 5 women convicted the 21-year-old Tsarnaev of 30 charges linked to the Boston Marathon bombing, which killed 3 and injured dozens 2 years ago. A few days after the attack, Tsarnaev and his older brother shot a police officer. Tsarnaev was a teenager at the time of the bombing. It is the first, this death sentence is the first of a federal jury of a terrorist in the post-9/11 era. The death sentence means that it automatically has at least one appeal. Correspondent Deborah Farrick is in Boston, and she explains what the jury did over the past 3 days.
The jury's been deliberating for about 14 and a half hours. It's a little bit longer than the verdict that was returned for Timothy McVeigh. That jury then took about 11 hours, so this is about 14 and a half hours.
Johar Tsarnaev sentenced to death in the Boston Marathon bombing.
What can being listed with YP do for your business? You're about to find out for free. YP will give your business a free listing on 2 extremely powerful customer delivering tools, the YP website and the YP app. Growing your business requires maximum visibility, and every month over 70 million potential new customers use the YP tools to search for businesses. 70 million! But if you're not there, they can't find you. Get the maximum visibility that comes from a free listing with America's largest marketing agency for small business, YP. Look, you're the expert in your business, and YP is the expert in driving new customers to your business. Imagine what that free listing on YP could do for your bottom line. Claim your free business listing today. Potential customers are searching for businesses like yours each and every day. Don't let your competitors get them because you're not listed. Go to myfreeyp.com. That's myfreeyp.com. myfreeyp.com.
At Money Radio, we're 24/7. That means the weekends are also full of great info and entertainment. Relax with us this Saturday and Sunday. You'll like it.
Volatility is coming back into the market. After a few generally peaceful up years in the market, 2015 has already had a number of sharp up and down moves, and these are likely to continue. If you're prepared for it, volatility is opportunity. If you're not, it can quickly wipe out years of gains in your portfolio. Learn how to get on the professional side of the trade, the right side of the trade, regardless of volatility. Check out Online Trading Academy's The Right Side of the Trade, Thursday at noon on Money Radio 1510.
Are you ready to start receiving Social Security? Do you have a plan on how you're going to withdraw it? Call Certified Financial Planner Nancy Fleming of Fleming Financial Services to learn more about the role Social Security plays in your overall retirement plan. Will Social Security be the foundation for you? Is it a nice addition to what you already planned out? Is it going to be better for you to wait to start receiving your Social Security benefit, or should you start sooner? These are very important questions you need to ask yourself before you retire. Call Nancy Fleming today to schedule your free Social Security analysis. 480-632-8770. Nancy Fleming is driven by one focused goal: to help clients grow, protect, and transfer all they've worked so hard to achieve. 480-632-8770. That's 480-632-8770, or visit FlemingFinancialServices.com. Fleming Financial Services is a licensed investment advisor. By contacting them, you may be provided with information regarding the purchase of investment or insurance products.
For a show that's full of energy and full of the very latest news about real estate.
Talk about location.
Make it a point to listen to Money Radio every Wednesday at 1 p.m. That's when Jason LaFleche takes over.
Same place, same time.
Real Estate Power Hour. You'll hear special guests and experts on all phases of real estate. And to make it even better, you'll have the chance to participate. If you've ever wanted to invest in real estate, then this is definitely the show for you.
It makes a world of difference.
Only from Money Radio 1510 and 99.3 FM.
Monopoly is back and bigger than ever at Albertsons. Look for participating products in store and get a game piece every time you shop. Shop, play, win. See store for details.
I'm Bruce Vail with your Money Now. Output from the nation's industrial sector dropped by 0.3% in April, according to new data from the Federal Reserve. The decline was not unexpected, but downward revisions to prior months show that output in the nation's factories, mines, and utilities has dropped for 5 straight months. That's the longest string of decline since the Great Recession. Manufacturing is being hampered by the strong dollar, which has hurt imports, and the plunge in oil prices that has brought a sudden end to the boom in the energy sector. Shares of beauty products retailer Sally Beauty Holdings are up about 1% today. Late Thursday, the company confirmed another breach of its payment systems. Sally Beauty did not detail the scope of the latest intrusion. The broader market is nearly flat today. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is up just a fraction. The Nasdaq Composite is down 5 points, and the S&P 500 is down less than 1 point. That's your money now.
It'll be home to 942 bursts of laughter, a 16-pound blackened turkey dinner, and the loudest burp on record. It'll be the site of the most legendary blanket fort ever built. Not to mention the stage of the Great Pillow War of 2016. It'll also be the final resting place of 2 hamsters, and one of the sweetest turtles who will ever live. It will see its fair share of broken windows, broken bones, and broken hearts. But first, you have to find it. Start your home search at Zillow.com or on our family of apps. You can view millions of photos, browse historical pricing data, and even sign up for alerts when new homes hit the market. Because you're not just looking for a house. You're looking for a place for your life to happen. Zillow. Find your way home.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth.
Hello and welcome back. Again, this is Scott Spangler sitting in for Bob Roth. I'm with Cypress Home Care Solutions. I think the reason why Bob and I really enjoy shows like this and do shows like this, especially in Cypress, is Cypress is a solution company where people truly matter. And Nancy and Jim, this is something that we believe is very important to people. And Jim, Nancy brought up the discussion and how to have the discussion. How important is it for somebody to come in, maybe do some sort of pre-arrangement? How does that work? What do you do? And what can they expect when they walk out? What has been done? Gosh, do they need to bring an attorney? Do they need to work with their estate? I don't know these things. What is the next step? I've made my decision to kind of go and visit with you. Okay. What's going to happen?
Well, the first thing we want to do is try to make you as comfortable as possible because the death has not occurred, so it's more of a relaxed feeling that all of us can have, although sometimes it takes a little courage to talk about my own demise. Mm-hmm. I understand that, and I appreciate that. But it's an extremely important conversation to have. And I call it a necessary conversation, as we all have to have once in a while, that necessary conversation, whether it's about educating your kids or having kids or buying a new home or whatever it is. The end-of-life issues are somewhat the same, to make it easier on your loved ones because they're the most important people in your life, and you want to try to make sure that things are taken care of properly the way you want it to be done. And so we gather some of the same information that Nancy was talking about as far as your wants and desires, because there's so many different options out there today. You know, there's the cremation she mentioned, there are traditional burials and that type of thing, and visitations that are so important to have that time of remembrance for your loved ones. And it doesn't matter if there's 200 people at a service or there's 2 people at that service. A life has been lived, and it's very important to honor that life. So we try to take it very seriously, but the main thing too is to have in this necessary conversation, do you have your wills? Do you have your trust? Maybe you need to revisit your wills or your trust to make sure they're updated, because maybe it was done 30 years ago back in Nebraska or someplace. So you need to revisit those wills. And I always say it's not easy to pass away today because there's tax issues, there's all kinds of issues, there's health directives. you're opting for cremation, there's other regulations there. Arizona passed a law about 3 years ago that you can pay for your own cremation, sign your own cremation authorization, and everything's legal. Nobody can come back and say, well, Mom, Dad didn't want that type of thing. So, so you can do that.
And you're the one that, when they come and talk to you, you're going to educate them on that.
Yes.
So you are. So it isn't that I know all of Nancy's questions, and so I'm coming into you. How about if I don't know these questions? Are you really the point person to kind of help them walk through these types of things? Because I wouldn't have even thought of, looking at my state, I wouldn't have thought of that type of stuff. Is that what you do?
It is. It is, because that's extremely important for everybody to be on the same page when the death does occur. And
does this happen at your office?
Yeah.
Where does this happen?
Exactly.
And where?
My offices are in the school location.
Oh, okay.
And then I have people at other locations too to do the same thing.
All right.
But the thing that is happening to many of us today, and I deal with this probably 2 or 3 times a week, people have to go on Access, and that's to help to pay the Medicaid system and so forth. It's a big issue today, and having your affairs in order makes that a lot easier before you spend all your money. So I have a lot of attorneys and so forth that I recommend, financial planners, if need be. If you have your own, that's fine. That's what you should do, to have these in order.
Do you also let them know, I know there's Social Security benefits, there's veterans benefits, but where does someone start? Do you inform them on that?
Sure. We provide all that information. The veterans benefit, every veteran that with an honorable discharge can go to the National Cemetery for burial in a time of remembrance, and there's no cost there. As far as Social Security, there's a $255 benefit. It's called a survivor's benefit. So at the time the spouse dies, either or, the survivor will get that check. So we apply for that through the mortuary.
Okay. Do the veterans benefits say, does that pay for the funeral? Does that pay for the burial? What does that pay for?
No, there's kind of a misconception there. Only if their person is retired military or receives a disability check each month. There could be something coming to that family, and we have no way of knowing what it was, but we suggest to families that after the death has occurred, and they can't tell you anything until after the death has occurred, then you want to get a hold of the Veterans Administration, and they can tell you the amount that they would supply for that funeral.
Okay.
So,
so I come in with my family, I meet with you. We go through what my desires are, what my family's desires are, and that. Now, do I need to pay you? What do I do? This is prearranged, pre-this. Do I need to pay for my services at that point? What do I need?
Okay. Although a lot of the people do that in advance so that the family doesn't have to worry about it, the money's out of the estate. But no, you do not have to. The main thing is to educate you on things that are available, the type of services that we can provide for you and your loved ones.
Okay.
But one of the big points that I like to bring out about our mortuaries and so forth, everything is handled with messengers, the messenger family. From the time of the removal, we have staff to make removals. Your loved one is always in our care at our mortuaries. And even if you opt for cremation, everything's going to be done at our crematory. So that we know, you know, that Messengers is taking good care of your loved one.
Well, say if I wanted to do this and my parents were in town, yet my parents were out of town, could I meet with you and could this be done with another mortuary? Could your pre-need services or whatever can I move that to a different mortuary, or is it just Messengers?
No, absolutely you can, and we accept other contracts with other mortuaries too. But that's the purpose of an insurance policy, because a lot of times families will move to Arizona and then they'll select our mortuary, and then Dad passes away, and here's Mom. The kids are back in back east, Illinois, or wherever they happen to be. But the insurance policy, you can take it to another mortuary, and those services could be provided there. What I like to have families do, if you see the fact that Mom's going to be moving to wherever, just give us a call. I will contact your mortuary, wherever that happens to be, just to kind of give them a heads up so that they know that you're moving into their community, and they would service that contract.
Wow.
Because the insurance product is good anywhere in the world.
Great. What a benefit. And Nancy, I'm sure that's a big benefit to somebody when actually the need arises. We're going to get into some questions there. We're back on a break. Your show is Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. We're with Nancy Keil of Messenger Mortuary and Jim Vickers with Vickers Agency. We'll be right back.
Here at Phil's Gang, we understand the ghosts of 2008 and 2009 hang over all investors. In a recent banking analyst report, studies show the reason people are not investing in the stock market is a greater need for financial education. At Phil's Gang, we are your #1 provider of financial investing education techniques. For over a decade, Phil Grandy has been coaching, guiding, and helping people build a successful trading plan for any time frame, from current income to retirement security.
I think what you're doing is extremely important. People don't realize this, but financial education is in many respects the most important education you can get, and that's what they're getting from your show.
Build your investment confidence with Phil's Gang today with daily webinars, alerts, and educational videos. And all material is archived for your convenience. Put the investment ghosts in the past and start investing with Phil Grandy and Phil's Gang today. For more information, simply go to philsgang.com, philsgang.com. Or call 877-600-GANG. That's 877-600-4264.
With technology, opportunity, and happiness, every Tuesday at noon, host John Barnabas builds on the success of the short segment Executive Technology Bites, Mondays on Business for Breakfast. Technology, Opportunity, and Happiness features more detailed discussion on the Money Radio technology model portfolio of promising technology-oriented stocks and has interviews with key personalities within the companies. Join John Barnabas every Tuesday at noon for Technology, Opportunity, and Happiness on Money Radio 1510. Right after Business for Breakfast, right after the news on Money Radio, tune in Mastering Money with wealth manager Steve Jurich and the doctors Sinclair Know. Learn about cutting-edge retirement investment strategies, Social Security optimizing, and RMD strategies. Guests on Mastering Money have included Steve Forbes, Larry Kudlow, and the one and only John Bogle, the founder of Vanguard. Join the A-Team, Steve and Sinclair, mornings Monday through Friday at 8. And now, download the Mastering Money app for your Apple, Android, and Windows devices.
For the latest in the world of golf, tune in to Inside Golf every Monday morning at 7:18 right here on Money Radio. Inside Golf is brought to you by Bodify and Cool Sculpting, where confidence takes shape.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth.
Well, one last time, this is Scott Spangler filling in for Bob Roth. Bob will be back next week. And again, I'm Scott Spangler with Cypress Home Care, and I'm so glad to be bringing this program to you today. Nancy, I think when I talked to Jim, I could really see the advantage for my clients to kind of have a roadmap of where they're going and what they're doing. But really, does it help you at all as a funeral director? Does it help you at the time of need to have some sort of prearranged thing, or is it kind of a pain? I don't know.
It's a tremendous help. And, you know, if you think about life, anything that we do in life, getting prepared for today is one example, but going through life, things are always easier when we're prepared. So is a funeral, is a death, is it going to be easier if we're prepared? Yes, it is. Is it something we look forward to? No, it's not. But it's always easier if we're prepared. And I have to tell you, Scott, that so we meet families, whether they've pre-planned, pre-arranged, prepaid. Some have, some haven't. But if they have met with Jim or anyone else, even coming in from another state, and things are pre-planned, you know, it truly is a gift. And I tell families when they come in, your parents truly gave you a gift by talking this out and laying things out for you. And also, I can honestly tell you that I've never, ever had a family. That has come in after the death has occurred. And sometimes kids come in from out of state and they don't even know that their parents have pre-planned with us.
Sure.
But boy, what a pleasant surprise at that time. But I've never, ever had a family say that they were sorry that the plans had been prearranged, and even better if they've been prepaid.
So if I'm a child of a parent and they've come in and they've done this pre-planned, and all of a sudden here's this pre-planned plan sitting in front of me, and I don't quite think that's exactly perfect anymore. Maybe mom or dad has changed a little bit in what they're thinking. Can I change this?
You can. And you know, the funeral isn't for the deceased. It's out of respect and remembering them. But a funeral's for us. If the funeral is for the living. And so, again, if you have a need, we want to meet that need, whatever that might be. And if your mom or dad have passed away and they knew that you, their son, had a need and needed to tweak something, change something, add something, wouldn't they be for that? Of course they would, because this is for you, and this is to help you with your healing and moving through the grieving process.
Good. One of the last things that I see that I seem to see a lot of confusion in is a hesitation to use a mortuary because I don't want to have the funeral at the mortuary, or I don't want to have the funeral at a church. But now, do you all arrange that? Do you work with that, or is it they come to you? They've got to have it at your funeral home and or the church, or are you kind of guide? How does that work?
No, that's a great question. And a lot of people today, there are people that don't have home churches. A lot of times when people move here from out of state and they're not back home with their community, we have funerals. We had a funeral not too long ago down at the Japanese Gardens in downtown Phoenix. We have them in complex clubhouses. People have them in their homes. They may just have an open house at a country club. In all of our locations, we now have beautiful reception rooms. So many times people don't want a religious or formal service. They want to have a gathering. They want people to come and be supportive and acknowledge that a life has been lived, someone has passed away, and for that all to be shared.
So if all of a sudden they want to, say, have a service or gathering at home, you're kind of like the Sherpa, the guide to make sure that if I'm having a service at home or a gathering at home, what are some of the things I should think about? You would be one of the experts that do that as well.
Absolutely, we can guide them. We're not here to judge. We are only here to help and educate, give people options, maybe even give them new ideas, things that they haven't even thought of.
Great. Obviously, Jim, one of the things that we also get is, oh my gosh, funerals cost so much. Or maybe they cost, I don't know what the costs are. Do you cover that? When you're sitting, do you find pre-looking at that, having plenty of time to think about it, is that an advantage or disadvantage for somebody, kind of looking at all of the expenses early? Is that an advantage?
It certainly is, and we want to do that. We want to itemize things out for them so that they have a good idea what the expenses could be, and it's kind of up to them. And there's one thing that we do not want is somebody to overspend, so we try to tweak that however we need to do that for that particular family, and we'll work with all families to see that happen. So it's very, very important to us. And another thing, getting back a little bit on the pre-planning, once we bring this all together, we provide a letter for that family, and we send it to them to critique it, make sure it says everything in there. Once you're happy with that letter, then share it with your family, your attorney, or whoever you need to share that with, so that they have the general idea what to expect, what they can do. Yes, they certainly can change things as time goes on, because as we mature, things do change in your life. Like Nancy mentioned, maybe attendance at church and so forth isn't what it used to be. But the important thing is to have a time of remembrance. Okay. And if I might digress a little bit on our cemetery, I just lost my son, so I know how important this is. My wife and I were at our cemetery, Paradise Memorial Gardens, on Mother's Day, and there was probably 250 people there showing respect to their families, that are deceased. And our beautiful cemetery is very, very nice, and something to really remember. We're not scattering ashes like we used to, because people are finding that we don't have a place to go.
Right.
So they need to have that place of remembrance. So things kind of go in a circle in life, and I think we're seeing that more and more people are realizing that. And especially with the baby boomers coming on, they're starting to realize they're coming in with mom and dad and so forth, and realizing things that they need to pay attention in their own life,
Right.
A lot of them say, I don't have a will, I don't have a trust, and so forth. So
I'm going through.
Very important. So.
Interesting. The remembrance is something that I see has changed in the last 20 years. It sort of was like at first I saw that people seemed to be wanting to get buried. Previous to that, wanting to get buried. And then cremation came, I want to be cremation and scattered. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden it's coming back of, it seems like I want a place, because the family needs a place to kind of go and sort of go, even if it's a name on a wall, it seems to be. Do you find that, Nancy?
We do.
Oh, absolutely.
We do, yes. When you think about, when we were kids, how, you carve your name or initials in a tree, or you put your handprint in cement. We want to be remembered. And, over the years, we have buried many empty urns at our cemetery, at the veteran cemetery, because ashes have been scattered. But then later on, the family just doesn't have a place. And again, just a few weeks ago, I was back in Wisconsin and with our parents, and we went out to the cemetery, and it had nothing to do with my grandparents, but with my parents and with us. It makes you feel so good, and it has nothing to do with me being in the funeral business. It has to do with me being in a family.
Exactly.
And putting flowers on the grave and telling stories and sharing and laughing and crying.
Right.
It has to do with life.
Good close and a way for people to continue going future.
Absolutely.
And going forward. Well, thanks for the two of you.
Thank you.
I hope this program was what we intended it to be, because I really think there's a lot of information that needs to get out there. I really feel like this conversation could have gone another few hours.
At least that. Thank you so much.
And I do, Nancy, if people have questions and people want to get a hold of you or want to get some information in this packet or whatever, where should they call?
Just call our main funeral home, 480-945-9521. That's where I am most of the time, and Jim as well.
Right, and if you can always reach us at Cypress Home Care Solutions. Thanks for being with us today, and have a terrific day.
There's no place like home. You've been listening to Bob Roth's Health Futures. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call Cypress Home Care Solutions at 602-264-8009. That's 602-264-8009. Or visit CypressHomeCare.com. Be sure to join Health Futures with Bob Roth every Friday at noon, right here on Money Radio 1510 and 99.3 FM.
Ford is taking the EcoBoost Challenge all across America, so everyone can test drive America's best-selling brand.
Oh, wow. Ford has really stepped up.
I definitely feel the EcoBoost.
They really kicked the competition's butt on this.
So come get behind the wheel and experience the new Ford lineup for yourself.
Awesome. I want to do it again and again and again.
My opinion of Ford has dramatically changed.
Hurry to your local Ford dealer for the EcoBoost Challenge sales event going on now. That's selling based on 2014 calendar year sales.
Money Radio 1510
and 99.3 FM.
Is KFNN Mesa Phoenix and K257CD Phoenix. It's not all about making money, it's also about spending your money wisely. When we find great tips, we pass them along to you. Dow is up 15 points right now, the S&P is up 1, and the NASDAQ is now down 4.
When people want to talk about money, this is the place they come to. And there's more on the way after this break for the latest news. And we begin